Have you ever wondered what all living things have in common? Plants, animals, and even you are made of carbon. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to dive into the amazing carbon cycle. You can think of it as this endless, incredible journey of a tiny building block that travels around our planet over and over again. Honestly, understanding this cycle is like unlocking the secret to how life on Earth actually works. So think about this for a second. What do you, a giant leafy tree right outside your window, and a dark, hard piece of coal all have in common? At first glance, they seem completely different, right? But they actually share a really crucial connection. They are literally all built using the exact same thing, carbon. Here is our roadmap for today's journey. We'll start by meeting the carbon atom, then follow carbon's journey through life, uncover Earth's hidden carbon stores, look at humans and the balance, and finally, talk about how you can help. All right, let's jump right into part 1, meeting the carbon atom. So what is carbon exactly? Well, represented by the letter C, it's a chemical element, and it is a part of literally every single living thing on Earth. Your DNA, your proteins, the food you eat every day, it all relies on carbon. Without it, life simply wouldn't exist. And here is a totally mind-blowing fact for you. Because carbon is constantly recycled, some of the carbon atoms in your body right now might have actually been breathed out by a T-Rex millions of years ago. Moving right along to part 2, carbon's journey through life. The absolute most important rule of the carbon cycle is this: carbon is never lost. It doesn't just vanish into space. Instead, it's locked in this continuous, giant loop. It's constantly moving through the air as a gas, into living plants and animals, down into the soil, and deep into the oceans. Let's trace its steps, shall we? It all starts with plants. They have this amazing ability to just pull carbon dioxide, or CO2, right out of the air using tiny little holes in their leaves. Through a super cool process called photosynthesis, they use sunlight, water, and that CO2 to make their very own food, which is sugar. And at the exact same time, they release fresh oxygen into the air for us. But carbon's journey definitely doesn't stop there. When animals like a grasshopper or a frog eat those plants, or even eat other animals, that carbon moves straight through the food chain, passing from one living thing to the next. But wait, how does the carbon get back up into the air? Well, all living organisms respire. That's really just a fancy word for breathing. This simple act of breathing, whether it's done by fluffy rabbits, singing birds, frogs, or yes, even trees, uses up oxygen and releases carbon dioxide right back into the atmosphere. So, every single time you exhale, you are actively participating in the carbon cycle. Now, of course, life eventually comes to an end. But when plants and animals die, nature brings in its very own recycling crew, decomposers. We're talking about bacteria, worms, and fungi, like mushrooms. They break down the dead material, and as they do this hard work, they release some of that carbon back into the air as CO2, while leaving the rest of it deep in the soil to help nourish future plants. Okay, let's head into part 3, Earth's hidden carbon stores. We're talking about a massive scale of time here. Over millions of years, some carbon gets buried deep, deep under dirt and sand. Intense heat and pressure underground eventually turn this buried carbon into fossil fuels, like the coal, oil, and natural gas we use today to power stuff, or even solid rocks like limestone. In fact, most of Earth's carbon is actually locked away in rocks, not just floating around in the sky. And we definitely can't forget about another massive storage unit for carbon, and it involves this fraction right here, the oceans. Believe it or not, our oceans actually absorb about 1/4, so that's 25%, of all the CO2 that humans release into the air every single year. They play an absolutely massive role in managing the carbon on our planet. Once that carbon dissolves into the seawater, it's picked up by tiny marine plants and animals who use it to build their shells and just survive. When these little sea creatures die, they sink all the way down to the bottom of the ocean floor. Over huge periods of time, their remains get squished together to become ocean sediments and thick layers of limestone rock, storing that carbon away safely for a really long time. Which brings us to part 4, humans and the balance. So let's look at how things balance out. On the natural side of things, plants are absorbing CO2, which keeps a perfectly healthy balance of gases in our atmosphere and regulates the Earth's climate and temperature. But on the human activity side, we see a bit of a disruption. When we burn fossil fuels in factories and cars, we're taking that carbon that was safely stored underground and releasing it back into the air.
At the same time, cutting down forests means there are fewer trees around to absorb that extra CO2. As our source points out, this leads to an increase in greenhouse gases and contributes to climate change.
To really put this loss of balance into perspective, just think about this number: 22 kilograms. Just one single large tree can absorb about 22 kilograms of carbon dioxide in a single year. That really shows exactly what is lost every time a forest is cut down. We're losing our greatest natural allies in the cycle. Finally, let's look at part 5, how you can help. The good news is there are totally things we can all do to help out. You can start simply by saving energy at home. Just turn off the lights when you leave a room. Whenever possible, encourage using clean, renewable energy. Get your hands dirty and plant some trees. Make sure you recycle and try to reduce your daily waste. And always, always respect and protect forests and local nature. Remember, every single action counts when it comes to keeping our amazing planet healthy. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final thought. We've learned today that carbon is never, ever lost. It just keeps moving around in this continuous, incredible loop. So since carbon never stops traveling, take a deep breath in and out. Where do you think the carbon you just exhaled right now will end up next? Will it feed a blade of grass in your yard? Will it travel all the way across the ocean? You are an active part of this incredible journey. Thanks for exploring the carbon cycle with me today.